There is no resource that determines the future of a civilization, quite like the materials powering its most advanced machines. Semiconductors, lithium, and ultra-pure quartz aren't just industrial inputs anymore. They are the foundation of military supremacy, economic leverage, and the next generation of artificial intelligence. When Nvidia's H100 chip processes a single AI training run, it depends on a supply chain stretching across 4 continents, touching mines in Zimbabwe, refineries in China, and fabrication plants in Taiwan. What makes this terrifying is how fragile that chain actually is. China has already demonstrated its willingness to weaponize mineral access, restricting gallium exports in 2023 and tightening those controls repeatedly since then. Beijing controls roughly 98.8% of the global gallium market and nearly 65% of all lithium chemical processing capacity on Earth. Their leverage. Nvidia sits at the center of this conflict in a way no single company should have to. Its graphics processing units, particularly the A100 and H100 families, became the essential hardware of the global AI race almost overnight. The US government responded to China's chip acquisition efforts with sweeping export controls, restricting Nvidia's most powerful hardware from reaching Chinese buyers. Lithium is where China's long game becomes genuinely alarming. Chinese entities are forecast to control approximately 50% of total global lithium production by 2027, up from 35% just 5 years earlier, combining domestic output with aggressive overseas acquisition. Zimbabwe offers the clearest window into how this strategy operates. Before 2023, Zimbabwe produced under 10,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent annually. By 2025, that figure is expected to reach 150,000 tons, almost entirely driven by Chinese capital. A congressional investigation described what it found there as unchecked extractivism, with Chinese firms controlling roughly 90% of Zimbabwe's mining operations. Zimbabwe eventually moved to halt lithium concentrate exports ahead of schedule in 2026 after regulatory failures reached a breaking point. High-purity quartz has entered this fight quietly, but with enormous consequences. Refined to 99.95% silicon dioxide, it is irreplaceable in semiconductor crucibles and solar-grade polysilicon production. Governments across North America, Europe, and Asia have formally classified it as a strategic resource. Without consistent access to high-purity quartz, fabs in Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan cannot maintain wafer production at the volumes that AI hardware demands. The EU Critical Raw Materials Act now mandates that by 2030, at least 10% of European consumption must come from domestic extraction and 40% from domestic processing. China's revised Mineral Resources Law came into force in July 2025, designated lithium as an independent strategic mineral for the first time, centralizing approval authority for mining rights directly within the Ministry of Natural Resources and ending the provincial autonomy that had previously allowed irregular licensing. What this signals is not restraint, but consolidation. Beijing is tightening domestic control over supply precisely as it expands overseas extraction. The result is a mineral architecture designed to leave competing nations permanently dependent. The US, the EU, Japan, and South Korea are investing heavily in alternative supply chains. But the scale of China's existing processing dominance means diversification will take years to meaningfully reduce that exposure.